Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Just when I thought the day was done, just when I thought I could put my feet up and relax, the transfer window has thrown us another curveball, another big story, another bit of breaking news that from an Arsenal perspective we simply have to cover. And that is concerning Arsenal's pursuit of the Leeds United winger Raphinha. Now, we've been hearing for a couple of days now that this interest is really hotting up, that Arsenal are desperate to bring the Brazilian to the club and would love to add him to their attacking options. David Ornstein coming out with the report this evening, just a few minutes ago. So let's take you through what exactly David Ornstein of The Athletic has had to say, and then we'll discuss it very briefly ahead of a full-length podcast coming up tomorrow. So here's the report. Arsenal have sent a formal offer to Leeds United for winger Raphinha, The Athletic understands. It is believed Arsenal made contact with their Premier League counterparts on Tuesday and indicated their intention to submit a proposal. Now, since that indication of a proposal was made, Arsenal have followed it through with a formal offer. However, it fell well below Leeds United's valuation and is expected to be rejected out of hand. Arsenal are firm admirers of Raphinha and would add him add him to their attacking options. So there's two ways of looking at this, right? The positive is that the interest that we've been hearing about, that's been rumoured, that's been much talked about in recent days is clearly genuine. So much so that Arsenal have gone to the length of, first of all, notifying Leeds of their intentions, and then second of all, actually submitting that formal offer for the player. The bad news is that according to David Ornstein and according to this report, we're well short of Leeds United's valuation. Now, I would say that this is common practice in transfer negotiations. A club starting with a low offer, trying to test the waters, trying to understand a little bit more about what it is going to take to get a player away from a certain club, but also at the same time making their intentions to the player and his representatives clear. Raphinha's people know now that Arsenal are dead serious. They know now that this isn't just talk. And obviously by opening the bid, by opening the discussion, opening the negotiations and formally submitting an offer, that means that Raphinha's people may well now say, if indeed he wants to come to the club, okay, let's start pushing from our side as well. And the idea is that you put so much pressure on the selling club, both from a player perspective and from a buyer perspective, that you put them in a position where they have to compromise in some way, shape or form. And that's clearly what Arsenal are doing here. That's clearly what a lot of clubs do in the early stages of transfer negotiations. However, as Arsenal fans, we've been burnt by this before. Remember the Luis Suarez case? Arsenal submitting an offer of £40 million because they believed there was a clause there that could be triggered, only for the bid to be knocked back and then for the relationship between the two clubs to completely sour, so much so that a deal then became impossible. So there is a fear of history repeating itself here. And as Arsenal fans, understandably, we're all keen to see him come in. Most of us are anyway. And so there's an anxiousness around how Arsenal go into these types of negotiations and how they present themselves. What I would say here is we probably need to temper that panic just a little bit because, as I say, this is a very common way of doing business in the football world. Teams do this. They go in, they make a low offer, they bring the selling club to the table, and then hopefully over the course of the negotiations, a compromise will be reached between both. A deal will be struck, a deal will be agreed. Personal terms then get agreed with the player if that's not already been done, and then we can move forward and then hopefully complete the deal. But it is obviously that there's a bit of sort of PTSD kind of coming through for Arsenal fans because of, as I say, what's happened in the past and how we've been let down by poor negotiation tactics in the past. But it does reiterate the point, back up the point and prove the point that Arsenal's interest in Raphinha is genuine. Let's go on through the rest of the report. I'll bring you up to speed with exactly what David Ornstein has had to say this evening. He says the 25-year-old Brazil international has long been expected to join Barcelona, and while the Catalan side are known to be his favoured option, their pursuit is complicated by financial problems. What's interesting is Ornstein also goes on to say that after Barcelona, Chelsea are said to be Raphinha's preferred destination. And not only would a move there provide Champions League football, but potentially also a better chance of winning major trophies. Then come Arsenal, who play Europa League football next season, and Tottenham, who qualified for the Champions League and are considering Raphinha, but he is not their first choice option. He talks about the fine seasons that he's had at Leeds, scoring 17 goals in 65 top league appearances here in England. He also goes on to say, and The Athletic say, that earlier in the month they reported that Leeds are sympathetic to Raphinha's ambition and do not intend to be unfair or obstructive if their valuation is met. But that kind of defeats the point if your valuation is ridiculous. And some of the fees that we were hearing over the last couple of days, £65 million, £70 million was one of the fees I heard bandied about. That for me is ridiculous. That is too much. And if I were Arsenal, if you're talking in excess of £65 million, I'm walking away from this deal. I've got to be honest. I like Raphinha. I rate him. I think he'd bring a lot to our forward line. But this is a guy whose current contract is due to expire in 2024. Okay, so Leeds aren't really in a position here to be massively sort of, fussy or really kind of stamp their authority. And we know as well, okay, and we know this, that Leeds United as a football club are not as financially powerful as many of the Premier League football clubs. We know they have an ownership currently that, has done wonders in terms of getting the right people in, signing the right players, getting the right management in to kind of elevate them back into the Premier League, brought them back into the Premier League for the first time in 16 years. But financially, Leeds are not very powerful. And I think that the reason Arsenal have gone in low is because they know that. And they know that with the contract situation the way it is. Now, it's not a massive emergency, the fact that it expires in 2024, but it's not that long in football terms. It's a couple of seasons, a couple of years. And Arsenal will feel that given Leeds' situation, and you'd assume that they've had some kind of contact with the player or his representatives, and they understand that he wants to come or would be open to the move, you have to think that Arsenal know what they're doing here. You have to trust them, I guess. But as I keep saying, it goes back to what's happened in the past and how we felt about that. And there's a nervousness and an anxiety that comes over us because of the experiences that we've had in the past. But look, Edu gave a really cool interview after the signing of Fabio Vieira, which was put out on the Arsenal channels a little bit earlier on this evening, in which he talked about the fact that we're having positive conversations. He said we're having good conversations, and he's excited by what the rest of the window could bring. Now, if Arsenal could wrap up a deal for Raphinha and get Gabriel Jesus over the line, potentially Lisandro Martinez too, this could be one hell of a transfer window for the Gunners. Let's have it right. Don't really know much more at the moment, and I'm hoping that we're going to see further developments. Hopefully Leeds and Arsenal can come to some sort of agreement, an agreement that suits both parties. I do think, as I say, that Leeds' rumoured price valuation of the player of around about 65, 70 million pounds is slightly too high, and I do think that if the player pushes from his side as well, there could be some kind of compromise around about the 50, 55 million pound mark. But let's see how this is going to play out. Let's see how this is going to pan out. And fingers crossed it's something that we can see progress further. But breaking news this evening, Arsenal have submitted an official offer to Leeds United for Raphinha. Question is now, can we get it over the line? Don't forget to hit the like button on the video. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you're new. As I say, we'll discuss this in full length on tomorrow's podcast. Really looking forward to getting into the nooks and crannies of this one. But as I say, subscribe, like, you know the drill by now, and I'll be back very, very soon with more. Come on, you Gunners.